Hello, everyone. Classic 80s fanboy here, also known as Carl. How are you all doing? I know it's been a long time, but I've been off this week. I've had my birthday was last week, but this week it was just took time off from my work, had a week off to enjoy myself and just relax and have a nice couple of good 6, 7 days off before I start back to work again. I'm back to work again tomorrow, but I thought I'd come on tonight and show you a couple of little bits and bobs and have a little bit of a chat. How's about that? Fancy that? Okay. So, as I said, it was my birthday last week. I had a very lovely time. It was nice and relaxing. Let's put this down here. Don't need to get rid of that. Get rid of that. So, I've got a lovely wife who understands me all too well, and I put a wish list up on Amazon, and she bought me a few things. I'm just going to show you what I got. For the Man Universe Formation Complete Collection, the complete series. So I've been watching that this week and last week as well, obviously when it was my birthday. Been watching that because, as you know, I'm a He-Man fan and collector. I've got a lot of He-Man up there. And yeah, I've been watching this. This also includes the film The Secret of the Sword and the Christmas special as well that I did. And that's on there as well. So it's the full 2 series as well as them two, and a nice documentary as well, which talks about the whole complete history of He-Man and how it started out and the reason it was made in the 80s, and it was to promote the toy line. There's two lots of DVDs there. So that wasn't the only cartoon that I had. My wife also went out and bought me Mask, two of my favourite TV shows, animated TV shows of the 80s. Mask stands for Mobile Armored Strike Command, with the command being a K. And it's all about all these vehicles and well, I'd say he was a billionaire called Matt Tracker who forms this organisation called Mask. Sorry about that. That goes around and they have an enemy called Venom under the guise of the evil Miles Mayhem, who has a helicopter that can turn into a jet. I never quite worked that one out. A lot of people I speak to don't quite understand why a helicopter would need to turn into a jet anyway. But yeah, it's all about Mask and Venom. And they're always battling each other week in, week out. So now TikTok, because I'm on it and I watch the little bit on TikTok. There's one came up. Fish and the 10th Doctor, played by, as we all know, David Tennant. And he goes back to interact with his two of three classics. I didn't say with David Tennant. The first one is he has a story with Leela and K9. The second story is with Nissa and K9. And the third story is with Ace and K9. So it's the 10th Doctor and K9 all the way through with three different companions. And it's from a group of 3 stories called the 10th Doctor Classic Companions. And there it is there. So I heard a snippet of it and I fell in love with it straight away and thought, oh, I've got to have that. So I went on to Big Finish's site. I paid quite a bit of money for it, but not only do you get the CDs, you've got the choice of getting the CD as well as the digital download as well. So I ended up with both. I got the digital download as well, and I was sitting and I when I'm in bed, I listen to it. Yeah, well, so which was fantastic. The other thing I've got to thank my wife for, I can't show you now. I might put a photo on later on to show you, or might show you near the end, is a blanket. I'm sitting on my blanket at the moment, but my wife got me a nice Doctor Who blanket to go on my chair. So I've got that on my chair at the moment. So tonight's subject, what I want to talk about, well, tonight I just want to touch on up a bit about and speak for a little bit about toy entropy and what I think about toy entropy. Do people think it exists? Does it exist? Well, I know I have my thoughts about it, and there's a reason why I wanted to bring this up tonight, and I'll go through it in more detail in a minute. Basically, my opinions is yes, I do believe it exists. I do believe that if you keep toys and have them for a long time, then things generally do start to degrade, and they're not going to be around forever. Star Wars fans or Star Wars collectors have been very, very lucky to have found Star Wars figures that are still on their bubbles and the cards, and they're still backed on the cards and the bubbles. But I don't think that they don't, unless they're probably looked at. Well, it's a hard one really, because even looking at Toy Palois and what Toy Palois is saying about toy entropy, he still seems to think that even if they get graded and have been in their plastic case, the tough plastic cases, vinyl cases. I think they're vinyl polypropylene. I think its cases are made of. He doesn't seem to think they'll last, and he has shown instances where he had a graded Ewok on its bubble in a card, and I don't know. I can't remember if he said it had been dropped or something, but something had happened, and the little Ewok had fallen out the bottom of the card. The plastic had split and cracked, and the Ewok's legs falling out through the bottom of the bubble. So I do believe toy entropy is a thing. I don't think, no matter how hard we look after our toys and take care of them and keep them in the right temperatures. I mean, my room's pretty cold at the moment. It always has been, because there's no heater. I don't have the heating on in this room. I always keep it at a cool temperature. Last year, we did have problems with the sun. It was blazing hot, but I've got a blind on the side of my window that I keep the blind down always at the summer. Don't get me wrong, I've got figures on my window sill, but I don't think I don't treat them as much with respect as I do with me He-Man and with Doctor Who figures. And the fact that I just leave them out there. There are problems with this because they're my DC collectibles. The problems I find with these is that over time, all the limbs stiffen, which means they continuously need to be warmed up and to get their joints to move. And I don't think they were designed brilliantly in the first place. There's a lot of things wrong with them. I haven't got one handy to show you, but they have plastic bows, but they have cotton tied in between the bows to make the string. And after a while, that string sags where the elasticity goes on them. So a couple of them I've had to restring. And basically, one of my figures as well, Deadshot. Deadshot. I have to really make sure about, because he's the second figure of Deadshot I've had, because the first figure, obviously, I moved his arm up, and the joint completely ripped off. The peg that was keeping his shoulder onto his chest ripped off. So I can't move that figure up and down. I think I'd have to seriously heat it with a hairdryer or something before I moved him again. So why am I talking about toy entropy all of a sudden? Well, I'll tell you why. Because about 8 years ago, Lego brought out a Lego ideas set of the TARDIS. And I've got it in front of me here. I'm just going to gently pick it up and show you because I've got to really respect it and be careful with it. I've just replaced some parts on it. So here we have the Lego's Ideas TARDIS set. Okay, I'll tip it up that way a little bit. The reason why I'm talking about this is because where all the consoles are, because there's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 consoles on here, 6 individual consoles. Okay. Now I've got the name of the actual pieces that you use to underneath them. There is a bar, like 6 separate bars, T-bars that run all the way around the console underneath. And the idea is, I'll show you by hand. You have a little black plate. It's a double back plate like that with the normal Lego lumps on. And on the sides of one of them, each have got a hook, and the hooks are like that. Okay, so they're facing that way, so they're facing over. So they're the C hooks. I'll show you my hands. The C hooks, but they face that way. Okay. And the idea is they clamp onto the T-bar. All right. Now, bearing in mind there's 6 consoles, so we're looking at 6 different clamps, and I'll tell you what the name of the actual clamp is. It's called a plate 1x2 with holder, vertical, and the number is because all the individual pieces of Lego are numbered, and this one is 4556158. Okay. And it's got a design number as well, and the design number is 60470. So they are black, literally, and they go on here. They go on the other side of these consoles, and they clip onto the T-bar. I'm not going to remove them because I had a hell of a job trying to get them on in the first place. So the problem that I had with all these bars is I don't know how they're actually made. But when I had these bars, and you click like that, they had split right across the center on both sides, so that you put any type of pressure on the top, and the whole thing disintegrated. Literally, the whole clamp just disintegrated. Yeah. So, as I said, they're held on in the middle. They're designed and sealed in them. They've got a line. I don't know if it's how they were made, but they had a line all the way along, like a seam running all the way along the middle. Yeah, of the clamps. So I don't know how that would, if they were made like that or they come out of the factory like that. But you had them sideways, and you tap you put your hand on the top and the bottom like that, and the whole lot would just go poof and collapse. And that happened on every single plate that I had, every single 2 plate that I had with hooks on. All the hooks had disintegrated after 8 years. There was nothing left of them. So I thought after all this time, I'd left it about 6 months, I suppose, and then I thought, well, let's see about getting them repaired, getting them replaced. You can't repair these once the clamps are gone. you can't stick them back on again because it wouldn't work. It just collapse again, where they're not strong enough, and they just disintegrate even more. So I went on to, first of all, I went onto Lego's own site and to try and see if I could buy them. You can't buy them. You can't buy them on the Lego site because they don't have them. They have pictures of they don't even produce. This Lego set now is 8 years old, and they don't even have any on sale anymore. They're all sold out. All they've got on their website is just photographs of as reference photos on what it is and when it was made. So there are little snippets like that online, which, like, for reference photographs and that lot, they have them on there. So what I did in the end is, and I've heard about this website, and it's like a massive collector site, and it's called Bricklink. So on the UK version of Bricklink, and I was able to find out the number because my Lego box is packed away in my loft. It's all neatly stored in carrier bags and bin liners and in plastic boxes. So I think the box was stored away in one of the plastic boxes up in the loft, and that I have the instructions in there, and I have Mini Matt Smith's fez, because it does come. I'll show you. There's Mini Matt Smith, and he does come with a fez. And I had extra Lego bricks left over because on a lot of these things, when you put them together, you always end up with a few spares. Unfortunately, none of these clamps were in that spare. Plates were in the spare, so I had to order them. But there's Mini Matt Smith, and he has a fez. So yeah, I went onto this site, the UK site called Bricklink UK, and I was able to order some more of these. Now, these aren't brand new. The pieces I got weren't brand new. They're all second hand. So I ordered a plate 7 of these I got in the end. The plate 1x2 with holder vertical 4, 5, 5, 6, 1, 5, 8. I got 7 of them, and for all 7 cost me something like 50p. Honestly, it's that cheap. And I didn't realise how cheap it was. I got them from a place in Northern Ireland. It was a father and son who used to collect a lot of Lego, and they were selling the parts off separately. They were all selling individual parts off, and so I clicked onto the. What you do is you put the set number in, and the Doctor Who Lego set is 21304/1. That's the Doctor Who, the individual numbered set to the Doctor Who Lego Ideas set, TARDIS set. So I went and got onto there, and I managed to bring up a list of parts, because they have all the parts individually broken down into little boxes of what parts, how many parts, and what parts there were to the actual design of the TARDIS. So I ordered up 7 of these, so I've got 1 extra. But yeah, and it cost me something like 50 odd p for them, and I also, as well, the same thing happened to one of my skeleton arms on here. The skeleton arm is just 2 hooks, one like that. Okay, so it's a hook like that and a hook like that goes that way, and in the middle it's got a curved, like a 45-degree angle to it, so it goes down and down like that. So one hook faces that one on that side, one hook faces that one on that side. Okay, and that cost me something like 10p. So I ordered one of them as well, because the one on my monitor, the same thing happened again. It's the seal, because it's sealed like that, and the seal runs across the middle like that. And I don't know if it's been made and they get sonically welded. I don't know if these parts are made like curves are made half and half, and then sonically welded together, to create that one clamp. But the same thing happened on that one as well. The arm had snapped. It must be entropy. That's the only way I can think about it. Of time, because this thing's never been dropped. It's never been. I've never dropped this thing. Um, it's never been dropped on the floor, and it's never been heavily played with. It's always been displayed. So over time, what's happened is, as I said, the clamps have disintegrated like that, and as I say, came into my toy room. It's not really, well, it is a toy room, but it's my man cave really. I come in and I found them on bits lying on the console floor. Each individual was just like on the floor. And then I thought after 6 months, well, I can't leave it like that. I thought I'd better repair it. So, what cost me the most out of all of it was the postage and packing. So in the end, it cost me something about something along the lines of £4 to £5 for just these little parts. But I'm glad I did pick them up, because now I can turn and say my TARDIS is back working 100% again. And if you look on my Facebook page, if you look up my name or Classic 80s Fanboy, you'll see that I took a photograph, and a 3D photograph, and it's all back together again. And I'm really pleased about that. So yeah, I believe that toy entropy does exist. I believe it's not fun when it happens, but it does happen eventually. These toys do not grow any younger. These toys, I mean, this set here, I didn't realise is 8 years old now. It was made in 2015. So it's 8 years old, this set. And I didn't realise how old this set actually was. But yeah, I think with age, it does, something happens during, it doesn't matter how, as I said, it doesn't matter how well you store it, something happens to it. And I think whether or not it's the same with Star Wars, the Star Wars toys, they've got plasticizers. They're made by plasticizers in them. And what happens with the plasticizers in the figures, and what's happening now, is that when you pick them up now, certain figures you pick them up now, they feel very sticky, and that's the plasticizers slowly escaping from the figure themselves. So the way you get rid of that is you obviously, well, it's not obviously, but if you didn't know, is that you just wash it. You give it a good scrub under some hot to warm soapy water, and it usually gets rid of the stickiness. So the plasticizers, yes, the plasticizers are still escaping, but they don't end up as sticky. It gets rid of the stickiness of them. I don't collect Star Wars figures. I did it. Don't get me wrong. I did when I was a child. When I was young, I had a lot of Star Wars figures, but I could never go back to collecting them again, because I find them, unless you're willing to pay good money for a decent quality figure, I couldn't bear to pay that much money now for each individual figure. Not £6-7, no, because in the 80s, in the early 80s especially, they were only a couple of quid each, £2 each. In fact, I'm sure, because my mum and dad, I mean, this is a memory. I can remember this memory, and one thing I'm doing now is because of my PTSD is under control, certain memories are starting to come back. Now I can remember on a Thursday night, my mum and dad used to go shopping. And they used to shop at Tesco. And in the 80s, Tesco used to heavily stock these figures and vehicles and place it. Well, more vehicles than anything, and figures. And every time they came home shopping, they'd go and buy me a Star Wars figure. Without fail, every week they always used to pick me up a Star Wars figure. And when I hit 9, 10, I think my parents gave my toys away. Because I know my brother used to play with them as well, but I think my parents gave all my toys away. They don't. see, parents back then didn't realise the value of 80s toys now, 70s and 80s toys, and how not monetary wise valuable. I'm talking about member berries valuable they are. Um, because in my mind there's two different types of valuable. There's valuable in the sense of how much they are. If you sold them today, how much it would cost, and there's valuable to me, which is the feeling that you get with them. I get a lot of feeling from certain toys. I mean, the Doctor Who one, the Doctor Who figures were not around when I was young, growing up. So Master of the Universe is different. I do get a feeling to some of them, but even then, I didn't have Castle Grayskull or any of the figures then. So the feelings are all new to me that I get from opening up a new figure, as opposed to having feelings. If I collected, thinking about it, if I collected figures that I had when I was a child, I think my feelings and emotions would be different. I think. I can remember having the 18 figures, both sizes, the big figures and the little ones. I can remember having them, and I think I mentioned it before. Mask figures. I know my brother had a few things, and a Thunderhawk. We used to have the Thunderhawk and the Switchblade. We used to have that, and Rhino. We used to have Rhino as well. So we had the main play sets and the figures as well. So we didn't have Boulder Hill. We never ever managed to have Boulder Hill. But we had some of the figures and play sets. So I think my feelings towards them, if I started collecting them again, would be different to, say, like my Doctor Who collection would be different to them, because, as I said, I never had Doctor Who figures growing up. I've only been collecting them as an adult, not as a child, and I think my feelings would be a lot different. I can remember going to a friend of the family's house, a friend of the family, her there. Well, I'll say there because it was a husband and wife and their children. We used to go around every month or so. Once a month, we'd go around for like a meal, and it wouldn't be a proper meal. It would be like a buffet and a chat, and I'd get in with the young lad who's now an adult now. He'd always be remembered as a friend of mine. I'm not going to tell you his name, but he was a good friend of the family's, and he's a good friend to me, and his sister is as well. They're good friends of the family, and still my family now, because as I said, my father's gone, and I've only got my mother left, and she's turned into a bit of a hermit. So yeah, she doesn't go out much. So they're still friends of my family, and he had a lot of Action Force. His thing was Action Force, and man, when I said he had Action Force, he had everything. He had the HQ Command Center. He had the Cardboard Command Center. He had all the vehicles, virtually everything. He had the first wave of Action Force when it came out, and then he ended up with Baron Iron Blood and all his henchmen and everything as well. And he looked after them. He kept them in pristine condition. The weapons were always with them. That's another thing we don't realise as well. We don't, when we're kids, and this, I know this sounds silly, but we never used to look after our toys. They were made for throwing around the room. They were made for going on action adventures and basically, basically going on. We'd make up our own thing as we went along, our own action adventure play time and all that lot, and have them going through like a jungle or concrete, or I mean, my family were very young. I used to live in a patio garden. We never had a grassy garden, so my figures were always playing there, and they were playing up and down the stairs. That's the other thing, we used to play on the stairs with the figures as well, in the bath. So you know, um, they were made. They were designed to be roughed around and played with and that lot. And as I said, my friend looked after his. He always made sure they went in back in their box with it and under the bed. And I spoke to him during my dad's funeral, and believe it or not, he still got some of his toy. He got rid of. I think he might have sold quite a bit of it, but he's also kept a lot of it as well, and he's got some of the original stuff. And because it's in that pristine condition, it is that pristine, he can command more money due to the fact that it's in pristine condition. I mean, he looked after it, and when I said looked after it, he probably looked after it. So entropy does exist. I believe it does exist. And unless we look into either fixing it ourselves or repairing it to the best of our ability, we just end up throwing it away. That's why I like Toy Peloy's channel, because he talks about how to repair them, how to look after. Not about looking after them. He talks about how they can be repaired and restored and brought back to life and appreciated. Which is why I follow his channel. I really do follow his channel, and I think he talks a lot of sense. I showed you his book his annual that came out. There's still loads available on the Retrofusion website. But he does talk about, and he makes a lot of common sense about toys. They can be, as long as we look after them, they'll last us a long time. Yes, the plasticizers start coming out, they start leaching out, but as long as we clean them and keep them clean and not go too too aggressive with them, be too aggressive with them, they will last, and they can be fixed. Well, I don't. There's no point in throwing a toy away if it can be fixed. If it can be fixed, let's have a go at fixing them. And this is where it gets. This is where all the arguments stem up from in the Star Wars collectors sites, which I've never joined. I've got to admit, I've never paid much attention to, and I'm not really interested in, because all they do is moan when they'll moan if somebody opens up a 70-year-old box toy that they want to open up. My view of that is fine. If you want to collect a mint in box toy, don't let me stop you. But don't be surprised if it's all turned to dust when you open it up, because it's not mint anymore. And then what enjoyment are you getting out of that? Yeah. My Lego Doctor Who set, I'd rather have it built and on display than still sat in its box looking, untouched, because what joy am I getting out of that? I'm not getting any joy out of that whatsoever, because it's just in its box. I do have some figures that are still, I haven't got them here at the moment. I think I've put them away, but I have got Doctor Who figures that are still in their boxes. Some of them will not be coming out because, like, they are one of there's a limited run on them. And when I say limited, they're from character options themselves. You had to order online to get them. Like, I'll show you this briefly. So when Jodie Whittaker's last episode came out, straight away the day after, character mentioned about in fact, it couldn't even before that, they were mentioning they were doing a regeneration box set, and I'm keeping it as box because it's lovely. But I'll just go show that. Look how lovely that is. It's the regeneration set. I mean, yes, I've the paint. There's been a bit of paint rub, whilst it's been the box there, you know. But it's a beautiful, shiny box. You know, they've put a lot of effort into it. And when you open it up, yes, there's the 14th Doctor and the 13th Doctor. I'm not worried about so much about the 13th Doctor, but I like the 14th Doctor. Yes, people say his hairline's too high. Well, David Tennant's almost 50 and he has a receding hairline. Yeah. So it's quite high up, which is why they've designed it like that. I don't know. Show you in the box there. See? And they've got a nice bio right up on the side there. So that to me is worthy of staying in its box. There's no point in opening that up. I don't want to open that up. So, you know, I'm not so worried so much about Toy Entropy on that one, because I know that if anything happens, I'll just take them out, clean them, give them a good wash, and put them back in the box again. So yes, I do believe that Toy Entropy does exist. I'm well aware of it. I know that because of this Lego set. But then there again, I was able to find and replace the parts that were broken on there. Yes, it did cost me quite a bit of money for packaging, but it was nice to get it done. It needed doing, so I went and did it, and I've brought it back to its original condition. Yeah, the parts are second hand; they're not brand new, but does it matter? No, they're not brand new parts. As long as it lasts me for another 8 years, it doesn't matter. And then if they break, if they disintegrate again, I'll just get some more. But I'm aware of that, you know, that could be a problem later on down the line, that they could disintegrate again, you know. So when I have an older vehicle, I mean, I've got a lot of Fisher Price. I've told you before that I'm collecting the space line of Fisher Price Adventure people. Now they have the spacemen have no names and that lot because it's up to you to invent your own. Basically, invent your own, use your imagination, invent your own stories, you know. But I've got a boxed Alpha Probe now. The first thing they say to you is to take the batteries out, keep the batteries out, and I don't ever I only put batteries in when I want to use it. But I have an intermittent problem of mine because mine only goes off, doesn't go off all the time, the sound. And even so, when it does, it's the annoying 80 sound. It's really loud. But yeah, I always keep the batteries out, the same as my Alpha Star. I've got an Alpha Star as well that's almost complete. I spoke about last week, I think. There's no batteries in that. I leave them without the batteries. The electronic TARDISes I've got. I've got the Daypole one, which I turn on every now and again, and I admit there is batteries in that. But I've taken the batteries out of all the electronic TARDISes. Yeah. Same as the TARDIS interior, that has batteries as well. I've taken all the batteries out of that, so they don't, because batteries, if you leave batteries in a vehicle for a long period of time, the acid leaks out and it can corrode all the metal that's in there that keeps the contacts between the batteries. So I always make sure that I take the batteries out of everything. The only things I don't do is the sonic screwdrivers. Because they won't. They're in a condition where they won't leak or anything, and if they do go straight away, I buy more batteries and replace them. One toy. There was another. My wife, bless her, every now and again, what she does is she'll buy, because she's into her books. She reads a lot of books, hardbacks, softbacks. She's into her big books, especially horror. She always says to me when she's on Amazon, she always says, "Carl, do you want anything?" And I'm like, "Well, I have a look on there and see if there's a figure that has gone right down in price." And the latest one I bought, well, I didn't buy it, she bought it for me, was that Anti-Eternia He-Man. Because I do like that figure. It's just it's not even painted. He's just been cast in black plastic and been given orange gauntlets and reddish brown hair, same as his boots. I quite like him. I think he's a really, he's a classy character that we've never seen before, really. And I think he was out in the original ones in the 80s, although I don't remember seeing him. But yeah, my wife said, "Is there a figure that you want?" And I went, "Well, this one, £11.99. Can't grumble with it." And I said, "Can you get me that?" So she went and got me it. So over having a wife that earns more money than you, eh? So yeah, so basically that's all I want to talk about. Really, is to Entropy. Yes, it's a thing. Yes, it does happen. And as long as you keep on top of your collection and keep it looking, well, I wouldn't even say keep it looking clean, because a lot of your stuff, especially with the Fisher Price stuff, as soon as I get stuff, I clean it. I put it in water and give it a good scrubbing. So it's not the fact that it's clean, because all my stuff is clean. It's always kept in a clean environment. So um, yeah, my advice to you is stay on top of it. If you find a figure that's sticky, give it a good clean. You give it a wash, get the plasticizers off. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about tonight. I hope you've enjoyed this. Give me a thumbs up if you have enjoyed it, and let me know what your thoughts are, because I think it's an interesting topic to cover. So, in the meantime, take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheerio.